Rachel Maddow is sounding the alarm after Donald Trump just promoted a potential Russian insider inside the federal government. Instead of cutting ties after the revelations, Trump doubled down, shuffling him into a new role that could be even more dangerous, and Rachel Maddow is now tearing into Trump for one of the dumbest and riskiest moves of his presidency. Stick around to see how this promotion is setting off alarms, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more updates. Now, before we can get into Rachel Maddow shredding Trump, there is someone else who ended last week by attacking Donald Trump over his ties to Russia. Recently, I reported on John Bolton having his house raided by the Trump administration. Now, Bolton has been a massive Republican critic of Trump, and I speculated that this raid was just a revenge for Bolton attacking Trump. Well, now that we're over a week out, the Trump administration has still not released any information on the supposedly stolen documents. They found absolutely nothing in Bolton's house because they were probably just making up the charges anyway, and this trumped-up raid did absolutely nothing to deter Bolton from attacking the president. Just this week, he went on British network Sky News to blast Trump for his failed Ukraine peace talks, and according to him, Trump is a terrible leader which works out great for Vladimir Putin.
I think the whole thing is collapsing. I think the chances for peace in Ukraine are probably worse now than they were before the Alaska summit. Putin has gotten away literally with murder. Whatever he said to Trump in Alaska, he's simply ignoring with increased attacks on civilian targets in Ukraine, no diminution in Russia's military efforts, no concessions, whatever.
Has Trump been humiliated to some degree in this situation by Putin?
Well, I think he has been. I don't think he realizes it, but I think Putin believes that the old magic is back, that his KGB training has allowed him again to pull the wool over Trump's eyes. It's working out very well for the Kremlin.
John Bolton says that Putin is taking advantage of Trump at every turn, and just this past week, we may have seen the most shocking example yet of Trump being blind to Russia's influence. You see, in Trump's White House, there's a man named Sergio Gor. Gor is the man that Donald Trump picked to help staff the White House and the entire executive branch. It is this guy's job to run background checks on people and to help pick the best employee for the job. Now, despite this role, a major red flag was just found with Sergio Gor's own background check, and the problem was that he never submitted one. The guy in charge of running background checks for the executive branch of government knowingly blocked the FBI from looking into his past. When this news came out, public pressure forced him to finally disclose his history. As it turns out, this man is actually of Russian descent, not born in the United States, and claims to have been born in Uzbekistan when it was a part of the Soviet Union. And while there are Russian minorities in many of the former Soviet states, many people are now speculating that Gor is just lying about being from Uzbekistan because saying he's from Russia sounds even worse. Donald Trump's hiring agent is an immigrant from the Soviet Union who tried to hide his identity from the FBI. Is that setting off red flags from anyone else? And if you thought Donald Trump would fire this guy after learning about this, think again. Here is Rachel Maddow this week looking into how Trump announced that he would actually promote Gor after this story broke.
The president has just fired the director of presidential personnel at the White House, the person in charge of hiring people into the Trump administration. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I said he fired him. He actually named him to be an ambassador. Because in this second presidential term, Trump doesn't fire anyone anymore. When he wants to fire someone, he instead just makes them an ambassador. And it's always because of some kind of mess. And now we have this latest one, Sergio Gor, the head of presidential personnel at the White House. He is credited by the administration with vetting and hiring something like 4,000 people into this administration. And boy, have they vetted and picked some winners. We don't know why Sergio Gor has suddenly been pushed out as the White House personnel director. They've announced that he's going to be ambassador to India now for some reason, but this follows a bizarre series of reports in the right-wing pro-Trump tabloid, The New York Post. Reports in which the Post claimed that Sergio Gor's real name was Sergio Gorokovsky, that he claimed to have been born in Malta, but that he had not actually been born in Malta. He had been born in Soviet Uzbekistan. And, again, the New York Post claiming that while Mr. Gor himself was supposedly responsible for background checks and security checks on all hires into the Trump administration, the Post reported that he himself for months had refused to fill out the paperwork to allow a background check on himself, which meant that he had only been able to get, reportedly, a temporary security clearance, and then that reportedly had expired. After the New York Post published its report on Mr. Gor in June, they said he finally did submit his SF-86 form to start his background check months late. And then, according to the Post, quote, several sources said that the FBI recently completed a background check into Mr. Gor. The findings of that review stoked internal intrigue over the past week as those findings were, quote, reviewed by West Wing bosses. And now he's been fired. Named ambassador. Again, this is New York Post reporting, and NBC News has not matched it. I'm just telling you what the New York Post has reported and not what I can confirm. But if there's ever a watch what they do and not what they say kind of moment, maybe it's the day that Donald Trump called a press conference in the Oval Office during which he mused out loud about whether his political opponents were fat, and then opined on what he called the inherent violence of something he called the, quote, Chinese carp. Okay, that's what he said. But meanwhile, in terms of what he's doing, well, they did just remove the guy who oversaw the hiring of everyone in the Trump administration in this second term. And even one of the most pro-Trump newspapers in the country reports alongside that inexplicable move that this gentleman has reportedly been lying about his background in the Soviet Union, and also something about his background check this past week turned out to be a real problem, and so he had to be given a soft landing.
That is crazy. Not only does Donald Trump not seem to care at all about this incredibly shady turn of events, but he won't even remove this man from the government while the FBI looks into more of his background. Trump is furious that people like John Bolton keep saying that Russia is walking all over him, but then he goes and keeps people with potential ties to Russia in the government. You can't be a diplomatic mastermind and also a lazy president who doesn't take things seriously. You can't have it both ways, Donald. And let's also not forget that several other people close to Trump, such as Tulsi Gabbard, have also been credibly connected to Russia with no action being taken by the president. Donald Trump either has some form of connection to Russia himself, or he just really likes hiring people who do. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and as always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more.